Welcome. Welcome to the photography business pricing photography channel. Let me tell you something. It's a continuous evolution of what this channel is all about. But you know what? The one thing that's not changing, I'm here every Friday, noon Eastern Standard Time, to chat with you and talk to you about your photography business. And I have something interesting to share with you today, and I'm going to share that in a moment. But first, I want to let everybody know that you can connect with me at Rosh Sillars on Twitter, and of course, right here in the comments if you catch me on the replay. And if people come in live, of course, they can ask questions. But this week, we're talking about the whole idea of being professional as a photographer, presenting yourself professionally. And I have some of the mistakes that I've made through the years, and maybe some of the mistakes I've seen other photographers make. I won't call anyone out, but just some observations that I have seen that I think are important to address. Now, this week I have in the chat, and I'll have it in the description, what I'm referring to as a sponsor. Actually, Macaroon is a consulting client of mine, and we're working to build and really improve and create a great website for, as you'll find out why it interests me and why I'm sharing it on this show, for templates for your marketing, overlays. And it could be your pricing list. Hey, there you go. That's something that certainly interests me. Make it look nice. And having a resource like this is pretty cool. Now, there are a number of different ways, kind of all scattered all over the place, but this has a lot of different types of products that you would normally want to download in one location. And that is why I like working with Jason over at Macaroon. He really does have some interesting stuff, good stuff, new templates coming up every week. And so as much of anything, I would like your opinion. And feel free to email me if you have some ideas that could make the site even better, or let us know what you do like. You're certainly welcome, of course, to sign up. It's only $10 a month, which is pretty darn good. And so anyway, I have the link in the show notes. I would like to know your opinion about it. I'll probably mention it a few times, obviously, as maybe it'll become an official sponsor. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm certainly sharing the information on multiple channels right now, just because I'm trying to get some good feedback from the community. So, presenting yourself out there, you want to be professional. And that's why I like the idea of having a structured, nicely presented price list, especially if you're in the retail. It's as much of it's probably even more important to have some kind of a card or promotional pieces and so forth when it comes to retail photography, families, weddings, seniors. You really do need to up the game. Now, yes, you need to have a great portfolio and a nicely presented portfolio when it comes to commercial work. Although, in the old days, we always brought in, cases of portfolios, and they would show the matted work, whether it was a transparency or a print, usually transparency, especially in the commercial world. Today, people pretty much look at our website. Well, that's another topic we'll talk about in a few moments, the importance of the website looking good. But still, the printed stuff can really be important, your card. And one of the things that I have found that works really well is to make sure you have a series of images. I always like to use the 4x5, 4x6 card. I just have them printed at the local lab during the day. Now I have postcards made, but I have multiple images and kind of give people the idea of what I'm about. Because if you give people a card and it's just your name and information and maybe one photo, it's hard to get a full effect unless the photo really says who you are, which obviously it should. It's just people saying, hey, I'm a photographer, I do food. Well, when you say you're a photographer, usually they're thinking about the last photographer that they saw. They're thinking about the last wedding that they saw. And if you're doing food, obviously it's important to let people know you do food and show them the type of work that you do, so they know what type of photographer and the style and who you are. The message and the story lasts a lot longer if you can really get specific into the types of the photography you do. So one of the big mistakes I made years ago when I was first starting my photography career, 25 or so plus years ago, I I I I would dare say that the printed work that I was sharing looked like I worked for a bank. There was no creativity. And I'm going to suggest to you that you probably sometimes when we create stuff for our business, not everyone. There are certainly photographers out there who do a great job right off the bat and are very creative. Maybe they're designers in a previous life. But a lot of photographers are not designers and illustrators and so forth, and even wordsmiths. And the stuff that they create is very, I don't know, it's very sophomoric in terms of style. And I am certainly someone who has been guilty of that many, many times. Like I said, my first stuff looked like I worked at a bank, and that wasn't representing my work very well because I was and still am. I believe I'm a creative photographer, and you are too. And if your presentation style is not showing off your creativity, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. You probably should hire a designer and consider um, you know, at least having somebody on, nearby or a connection, trade services, whatever you need to do. Now, obviously, today there are a lot more opportunities online that you can maybe try some of the stuff, maybe a little generic if you're doing the cheap design stuff. But heck, even cheap, good design is better than horrible design that's misrepresenting the quality of your business and who you are. So I guess I would definitely recommend, either building that relationship with the designer or find some designers online that you like, test them out, try a few of them. They are so inexpensive and they may not be super high in design, but it most certainly is a little bit better than what maybe you and I could do as photographers. Something to consider. I mean, are you thinking about fonts? I mean, are you thinking about how fonts are paired together? Are you thinking about, trying a unique tool? I mean, let's get right down to it. Sometimes the worst stuff I've seen photographers do is because they found a unique tool in Photoshop and decided to use it. And it may be a great tool, but it just doesn't look that good in the design, or they use too many gimmicks. That's a big con. I see that a lot. So you found one tool, that's great, but two or three, four more tools that are really interesting all together is even better, right? Not necessarily. So thinking about how you present yourself, but not only that, how are you presenting yourself when you are photographing? This is something that I've seen in the past where photographers were just not presenting themselves well. And I actually did something really interesting. Um, and I think it worked. And I'll tell you what it is in a moment. But, I see photographers and cutoffs, cutoff are old. They think of themselves as behind the camera. And when you're thinking of yourself as behind the camera and you don't have to worry about looking good, uh, I think that's a big mistake. You're still representing yourself. You're still representing who you are. It's still your brand. You still want to be dressed appropriately. Now, I think in most cases, wedding photographers specifically get it, but not always. There are some very highly dressed down people doing weddings. And I think you need to present yourself a little bit better than that. But even if it's a senior, it doesn't matter. You want to present yourself because people are judging you. I know, I mean, you say, well, the photography will do the talking. Yes and no. If you're making people uncomfortable because the way you're presenting yourself, the way you talk to people, there's some things you just have to be aware of and start to think about the comfort level of the people who are in front of your lens. You want to make sure that they are having such a great time, that they appreciate who you are at a level that they're going to refer you. That is how you're going to grow your business. Now, there are some situations, I know fashion photographers tend to get, sometimes a little more dressed down. There's just kind of a style to it, maybe jeans and a t-shirt. That could work out. I mean, again, it depends on the environment. Now, when I was young, and I'm talking in my 20s, I would wear a suit. I wore a suit I mean, I literally wore a suit photographing through McLouth Steel. Now McLouth is no longer, but it was a big steel mill. And I was photographing for the company along with another photographer who's more probably dressed appropriately, to be quite honest, at the time. But I wore a suit. I had a lot of suits, and I wore suits for everything. I photographed Little League baseball games in suits. Now, was that really appropriate? No, not really. But people remembered me. And in part of the overall, I mean, I didn't get a lot of retail work, but I got a lot of public relations work. Public relations people would see me and would say, "Hey, would you photograph? Because we would like you to represent us at this event." And that worked out. So I was kind of pulled more into the corporate world based on the way I was dressing. So, kind of the dress for success thing. So I have a feeling I would not have earned a lot of the jobs that I had earned in the corporate side of things, in the public relations side of things, if I had not done that. And it was just my thing. Some people can wear red sunglasses and some people can wear purple shirts, and which I do once in a while. I mean, whatever it is that gets attention. So you think about how it is. Look at your overall look of your website. Is it matching? Is it representing? Is it old? Is it old? When people get your card and then check you out, is it looking old, or is it matching the brand of the card, whether it's a business card or a 4x6 card? Is it matching? Is it all flow together? The website, the card, the promotional materials, and even the way you present your work. Does it all flow together in a way in which people will say, "Wow, this person has it together. This photographer has it all together." And that again is something that I think is really important for photographers to consider. Okay, so just again, that's what I want to talk about, the presentation. Now, some of the presentation is certainly, again, your branded materials, but some of it is you and your website, your printed materials. The fact is, it's all this turns into your brand and your reputation. Again, even how you present your photographs. If you are creating websites to show your photographs for preview, are you using a system that is nice and slick and easy to use? Check out, try to order. If you use an online ordering system, have you gone through the process of ordering a photograph from you? Now, a lot of these locations have gotten pretty darn good. I mean, I got to say, we're well past the early days. But, maybe there's a system. If you've been around photographing for at least 10 years and you're still using some of the similar systems, you might want to take a moment and just see if there's a better way, if there's an updated process that would be better for you, for your customers, or just for your workflow. So these are some things you can think about. I mean, kind of review. I would recommend you review everything from your look. I mean, remember, fashion is always changing every year, every couple of years. I mean, if you're wearing something from maybe 5 years ago, maybe unless it's kind of a classic look, maybe you're out of style. Well, that's true with your presentations too, and your website. Websites are always changing, always updating, and your marketing materials, the fonts you use. I mean, if Comic Sans, sorry, it's just not going to work. You can't do it anymore. It's just not going to be something that you're going to want to keep using. So continue that review. Okay, I want to take a moment to answer your questions, and I have a few of them today before I hang it up. If there are folks in the live section, you are welcome to ask questions. And again, I highly recommend that you hit the macaroon. Again, not because the sponsor tag, but just I'm looking for feedback and some of the community to just kind of tell me what you think. You don't even have to sign up. I'm just interested in what you thought of the website and the ideas and things like that. And if you would say, "Wow, I would never do this," well, then why is that? Well, there's a better solution. Okay, why is it a better solution? That's the kind of information I would love. Or you say, "Well, hey, this is a great option, and this is just as good, if not better, than the other solutions." Those are the things I'm looking for. Okay, I won't belabor that. Okay, so next question. Facebook, it's a question we've been getting a lot lately. Facebook, should I be spending more time on my business page? Should I have multiple pages? Uh, you know, I would say probably not multiple pages unless you have multiple businesses or multiple websites in completely different areas. Again, we've talked about this a number of weeks. The fact is, yeah, I'm really looking at more and more your Facebook page is just an open for business sign. You just kind of just take a moment, upload something of interest. Not many people who like it will see it, and like your page will see it and move on. But people who go there from your website, they want to see that you have a Facebook page and that you are active and engaged. That will let them know that yes, you are open for business. So you're regularly updating. But for the fact is, if you want to actually build a community there, you can do it. And again, I know some folks who are doing it, but you have to really hone in on your specific niche and really get people engaged. And as I've mentioned, you certainly might want to go to a group to really develop that engagement. Okay, the next question, pricing for portraits. Can you explain the per image pricing on that? It sounds, gosh, I think that a lot of these questions are similar to last week. And even the week before, which is fine. I'm happy to answer them again and again because obviously there are always new people coming into the community. I probably shouldn't even say that. I've talked about it before. That's no big deal at all. I'm happy to keep everybody informed and up to date. So per image pricing, yeah, with the portraits, and I'm sure that came. I think that came from the pricing article. That question. Yeah, per image pricing I have found to work really well when it comes to portraits because a lot of times you have, say, an hour to take your portraits. I mean, everybody is scheduled, you have time, but there are always some people who seem to want to sneak in. And if everybody understands the value of each portrait, I think it's more important to have that per image price because then it allows you to add on more people and not feel like you're being taken advantage of. Because remember, you may say it only took a few more minutes to just to create those couple more portraits, but no, you have time on the other end on the post processing. And of course, that all depends on how much time you spend on that post processing. So that's important to consider. Um, you know, with that, we really do need to consider. We really do need to consider the post processing side of our business and the value that we bring to the table. So much more of what we do today is in the post processing. Uh, I mean, for me, I'm very simple on the post processing, but I have seen some tremendously good work that must take hours and hours, especially if there are a lot of images. I guess I'm just encouraging you to make sure you're being paid for that time. It really is important. It really is important to make sure that that time is covered in that per image price, or if you are charging a fee for your time. Now, a lot of times we cut that fee down a lot. And I would encourage you. I mean, I know some people who charge $200-300 an hour to photograph, but then when they go to edit, it's like $35-50 an hour. It's like, wow, your time is your time and your time is valuable. Now, if you are outsourcing it, that's one thing. But if you are doing the work, you certainly need to be paid for your time. Okay, the next question. Should I consider travel? So, should I consider travel as part of my cost of doing business? Yes, absolutely. If you have a car, you should consider that and the mileage as part of cost of doing business. Now, I have a range of about 50 miles. And if I go outside of the 50-mile range, um, then I will charge the client. Otherwise, I'll absorb that cost. There's nothing wrong with that. That there's certainly, but you should certainly state that limit. And also, if you are traveling doing destination work, you should be very clear on the process and how you go about it, what the expectations are. I think that is really important. A lot of times when working with clients, whether it's a retail client or a business client, a lot of people are not setting their expectations of how to work with you. What is the process of working with you? If you can lay out that process of working with you a little bit easier, well, then the whole process of that client working with you, one, is a known quantity, and it'll be a little bit easier for them to go through the process. They know what is next, they know the steps and what is required and what is expected versus, I've seen this many times where people come back and say, oh, well, now you need to do this after you've done that. And say, well, nobody told me to do this. Well, I've been waiting on you. And that's the photographer saying that, I can't do this next part without, this information. Well, if the client didn't know that, how are they to feel when they're being, told by the photographer that they're doing things wrong? Nobody wants to feel bad, like they're being belittled in some way. And I'm not saying all photographers do that, but I've certainly seen that happen. So if you can literally lay out, if you do weddings, if you do commercial work, whatever it may be, seniors, lay it all. Here's the first step. You contacted me all the way through to the final delivery and invoice, and just make that list. That is going to make doing business with you so much more easier and desirable. And people will probably, quite honestly, share their experience with other people a little bit easier because, wow, it was just all laid out. They may even share that sheet or make copies of it. Next question. I have a bad review. Should I do something about it? Is there anything I can do about it? Obviously, it depends on where you are, but most of the time, if you have the opportunity to respond, that is your best bet. Um, I had a situation in the last week where somebody said, "Hey, there is a bad review on my site," and I looked them up, and we've never done work with them before. So, what do you do? Well, just respond and say, hey, sorry you had such a poor experience, and I'll do anything I can to help rectify it. However, you are not in our system, and I don't see where we were of service to you at any point in the last few months or at all, or within the last year. And if you can just show that you're trying to rectify the situation, then it's actually a good thing. People will see that, look, everybody has somebody that is unhappy with what they did, is unhappy with the work. And if you can respond to it, and then if they come back and they're really nasty again, um, then I would just say, well, feel free to give us a call and we will be happy to work this out. And then let them have the last word, unless it's positive or they're out reaching out to you. But usually I don't go more than one or two times around and let them have the last word, because quite often that last word will be, it will be kind of nasty and rude. And so after those three rounds, and you spent two of those rounds just saying, hey, we're here to help, and all they are is nasty, guess who looks bad and who looks good? It can actually work in your favor. So don't worry about that. Okay, last question. Should I have my photos, my pricing on my website? That's a good question. I will, especially retail, I often do, and I've known photographers who've done a great job. Now, it goes back and forth and obviously depends on your competition. But if you are finding that you need to increase your rates a lot and people are lowballing, or some people seem kind of clueless about what they should be doing in your community, be a leader. Put your pricing on your website, and I've seen it happen. I've seen it where prices in a community have actually gone up because a photographer, especially maybe more well-known photographers who have a little influence, do something like that. Well, everybody starts going to their website, and actually it could be good for SEO too. If all the photographers are going to your website and looking around at it, that could be highly valuable, which could kind of push you up the rankings. So, yeah, I would put my pricing until you felt maybe it really was hurting you. Then you could take it down. But in the most cases, I feel it's just fine. And I'd rather have people. This is my bottom line. I'd rather have people bid a few dollars lower than me than half of what my rate is because they don't know. Maybe they're bidding a few dollars lower because they know my rate. And so we're competing against portfolios and they have a slight pricing edge. I rather compete against that versus purely price because somebody is half the price, and that's just not the way you want to go. So there's nothing wrong with having pricing on your website. Okay, that's about it. Thank you so much. It's Friday, and of course, noon Eastern Standard Time is when we meet each week. And you can join me to ask questions live, or you can respond in the comments. And we can connect, of course, on Twitter at Rosh Sillars. It is great to have you here. I will see you Monday for those of you who follow me over on the Marketing Strategies channel, and that is noon Eastern Standard Time. On that channel, you can just catch me at rosh.video over there. And of course, you can always catch this channel at price.photography. And that will bring you right to this channel. Again, noon Eastern Standard Time. And of course, you don't see me right at noon. Maybe there's a little technical difficulty, but keep checking in and I will be there. Talk to you next time. Thank you so much.